Alright, Diablo players, very important stuff to go ahead and go over with a discussion video to improve Diablo 4's current game state. In fact, what I think is crazier is we just released a build guide on a new thing for the Elixir, talking about how awesome it actually is. There's a lot of classes that can heavily benefit off this, and some of the classes are actually able to clear out a Pit 150 now. Now, I already showed you guys doing a Pit 150 with the Spiritborn, but I want to go ahead and have a discussion. In fact, what I thought was more interesting is that there are articles talking about how Blizzard is ruining the fun of the game, and there's a rapid patch to just ruin this brand new thing that technically it was bugged, but if players are having fun with the Spiritborn, which is super bugged already, but then the Elixir comes out and it's bugged, and a lot of other classes that aren't Spiritborn are benefiting off of it, well, that has to be nerfed immediately. Now, I kind of want to bring up some other points here, and I want to have a discussion, so feel free to go ahead and give me some feedback, as I do want to write up something for Blizzard for the next upcoming season as a Diablo partner, because there's a lot of pain points right now. So a lot of people are really mad about the amount of bugs and exploits, and dupers are selling a bunch of items, and then your items will essentially poof. There are certain bugs and exploits that are definitely much higher on the priority list, and things that obviously should be fixed a little bit faster than others, because when something is really broken in your game and people are literally trading for items and they don't know that they're duped, people can be farming for weeks or months, or they're grabbing mom's credit card to go ahead and get the gold, and then they get an item and then it is essentially poofed. It just goes away. That is a huge problem in your game, because people aren't seeing themselves realistically getting these aspects, these items, so then they are busting out their wallets and dual wielding credit cards to go ahead and buy these items, because it's not time efficient to go ahead and play the game. This was a big issue with Diablo 3, that they removed the auction house because to get the best loot, it wasn't playing the game, it was playing the auction house. And in our case, it'd be playing like Diablo trade websites. But the problem is there's so many scammers that people are also afraid to go ahead and actually invest the time, get the gold, and then just trade for an item that's going to disappear anyways. That's a big issue, and that really needs to be driven home. But I wanted to also mention that there are so many other bugs. Like, look at how many other bugs just exist. This guy's just posting over here. Like, we need an emergency hotfix for all of these. In fact, some of the newer stuff that just came out on the most recent update, well, they haven't mentioned that they're going to be fixing it. So a lot of players right now are pretty upset about the game, and I feel almost like a broken record. I'm talking about like new broken things again and again every single time there's a new update. But I want to go over why people are really upset about this, and Diablo is going even further down over on Steam, and as far as like the review score, yeah, it's mostly negative, and it is going even further down, even though we've had a mid-season update that genuinely had a lot of massive changes. Now, these massive changes are more so done in the massive amount of changes versus the amount of newer content that players are getting. And the reason why I'm very critical in Diablo, because some people think, man, you have a Diablo channel, do you hate Diablo 4? And the answer is no. I want the game to do well, so I criticize the game and I try to tell them what they need to fix. Now, I have a connection with Blizzard as a Diablo partner to talk to them directly, but I also want to let you guys kind of know what I hope can be fixed, as they do listen. Sometimes they may not listen to every single thing that I say, but it's to also inform you guys kind of the pain points that I think exist in the game, because I want this game to do well. One game that I didn't have access to the Last Epoch partner or anything like that, but I really like the game Last Epoch. If you guys haven't played it, it's a cool game, but the thing is that this game just doesn't hold the player's retention rate, and I don't want Diablo to go down the same route. I think Last Epoch's a great game, but people just simply aren't playing it because, well, it's just not holding people's interest. And I think that that's kind of sad, so I really want to see some improvements here. So for starters, one thing that is very important is that they are dropping a patch. Now, I can confirm that this patch has already hit. There is basically two different sections here. So there's going to be another patch. Well, one of them is going to be a server hotfix, and then there's something that's going around in the background. And this has to do specifically with the Elixir items. So if you guys didn't know, there's an Elixir, you pop it, you'd have millions of HP, and if you have overpower, that would also correlate to more damage. Now, with this thing nerfed over here, this is by Pez Radar over here. He's the global director of all things Diablo, pretty important, but basically he's saying, yeah, it's going to get nerfed. He's kind of like the guy that you check out for the most recent updates for when the patch is going through. And a lot of people are pretty upset about this. Leave this till the end of the season. No point of taking away the fun right now. And that goes again with the same mindset and idea of it being kind of well, Blizzard sees us having fun. They're saying no. Now, technically the Spiritborn is also like Omega bugged with so many bugs, and I'll kind of go over that. I want to have a discussion about this. But then on top of that, the thing was that they said before they didn't want to apply the nerfs unless there was a stability problem. Why are the public policies rarely ever to be followed? Okay, so yeah, this is kind of where a lot of people are right now. It's like, okay, well, you let the Spiritborn be super OP and you said we're not going to nerf it. With the exception of the evade build was causing stability on the servers, right? And that would make sense, and I'm totally 100% okay with that. But if you have another build that is OP, that works for multiple classes, people are saying, oh, it's because Barbarian and Druid can now do, you know, high tier pits now, so they have to nerf it. They have to make Spiritborn the best class. I don't think that that's their philosophy. I think that they were seeing it, that everyone was talking about it, including myself, dropping build guides for like, the Necromancer was also doing crazy amounts of damage as well. Any class that can utilize overpower. Basically, the Sorceress was kind of out there. Rogue, it's kind of hard to do overpower as well, but there are ways to go ahead and do it. But basically, that's why people are upset. They're like, you're just not allowed to have fun with the other classes, so they decided to nerf it. Again, I don't think that that's the case. But will this also address the Cinder drops? Now, this is another problem because the most recent update, if you guys haven't seen the new, I don't know, Winter Xmas event that they had, like this Red Cloaked Horror. If you guys haven't seen that update, I'll link it down below. You guys will see the gameplay of the like newer enemies and stuff. Basically, though, you're one-shotting everything. It doesn't matter. You're getting just crazy amounts of cinders. So then the event was actually only really good for the Helltide to get cinders. But they're wondering, is this going to address the Cinder drop rate? Because the drop rate on the Cinders, to be honest, it's way, way, way too high. Probably not intended. In fact, a lot of people, including myself, I'm like, dude, this got to be bugged, man. There's no way I'm getting like thousands of Cinder because I can't even use all the Cinder because I can open up every single chest, which is kind of exciting for, I would say, like the more casual audience, because at the end of the day, the good players that just need to grind Paragon, they're just playing Pit for 10 hours, which I don't think is a good form of like endgame content to just slam down the Pit again and again and again. We should have more ways to actually play the game. So we could see another nerf. You can see Adam Flesh responded. We are still looking into this one. It's got a few elements and the team is still looking if this will be fully addressed. So I mean, is this a bug that they're just going to let it go through? Are they going to nerf it? I don't know. It just says we're looking to see if this will be fully addressed. So there could be another nerf coming around, not only to the Elixir, which is already live. I can tell you that the Elixir does not work anymore. So if you're looking to build a build, the one that I showed off that could do a 150, it is nerfed. So just letting you guys know, do not build it. It's not going to work anymore. But again, Cinders could get nerfed again. And then some people were also talking about this thing over here where like there's apparently this problem with the world boss and the Helltide notification, and I've noticed this too. Sometimes it'll tell me that there's a world boss and I'm like, where's the world boss? So I don't know exactly what this timer bug is, but I think this one's a pretty critical one because especially for a new player, they're like, wow, I want to do a world boss. It's happening in 2 minutes. And they have no idea, like, where is the world boss? Like, these timers also could be fixed. I don't know if this was with the most recent patch, but this has been an issue that has been ongoing for quite some time. I, again, want to say that hopefully this could get fixed. But a lot of people, again, saying like, oh, we're having fun playing the game, you got to fix it. And I want to say, if players are having fun in a PvE game, I want to know what's kind of the downside of just letting all the classes feel super overpowered and we can just destroy the monsters. Like, what is the big deal with that? I understand that as a game designer, you may not want your players to go to the hardest content and one-shot it, but you can already do crazy amounts of damage. The difference between like a pit like level 1 and a pit 100 is the same content, right? Or a pit 150. It's the exact same form of content. Now, if you want to come up with some crazy pinnacle boss that only, you know, a handful of players can do because it's so hard, I could kind of understand that being some other form of like, you know, end game content. But again, with the whole system of like letting the other classes at least level up their glyphs to 100, that should be something that we see. Now, another thing I wanted to go over is there are still even more bugs with the game that got introduced, and I kind of want to highlight these, bring these to Blizzard's attention, although to be honest, they don't really, I would say, respond as fast on YouTube versus like if I can just directly message them and just tell them, hey, Neo Rune doesn't work properly on all cases, where it's supposed to say you're supposed to take health damage. Assuming that this works like D3, this should mean that your shield should still work. So I don't know why this would have this issue, but again, certain things aren't working, and I really want to say there needs to be a little bit more testing to make sure that some of these things are good. I was testing some of the other things, and I was looking at other content creators to see if they've made some cool new build made with like the meteor or the bonus with like the ice shards and stuff, but some of these fall so short to the point where like if you just test these for 10 minutes, you just see that like they're just not viable. Like you can't make a build out of the new buffs, and I feel like what is a big problem is because of, like, you see all these changes, right? You're like, wow, if we go to, let's say, a Sorks, because Sork is a class I think a lot of people want to see be good again, because Season 2 Ball Lightning was awesome, man. But you see all these, like, number increases. You're like, wow, dude, this is getting increase. And then you bait the players because they're like, dude, I can't wait to play this. Look at this 500% damage. Like, we're going to Diablo 3 numbers, and this is kind of a band-aid fix on certain things where it's like, oh, it's like, okay, this isn't performing, just give it like 200, 300x damage. And if that's the area that they want to go to, hey, again, let us kind of blast the content. I think that could be a solution. But again, there's a lot of these where some people are making some builds out of them, and then they don't see any good performance. Then they're like, dude, what was the point? I got baited. And I've made a lot of builds that were absolute bait, like the Lightning Nova with the Estador's Overflowing Cameo. Spent so much time trying to get like the best pieces of gear to try to min-max it. Wasn't happening. So with all of the good builds, I feel like in this game, we've seen them time and time require you to play a build that is actually bugged. And I was actually thinking to myself, like, that was the time that I actually had the most fun in Diablo. If you guys played Season 2, the Ball Lightning was amazing. You played maybe the season where we had the Rogue to one-shot anything with like the Tibalt's bug. It was kind of fun. So I was thinking about like just this game in general, and I was thinking, well, if we have certain bugs, again, I'm not talking about like the duping exploits or like the masterworking where you get to masterwork more times than you're supposed to. I'm talking about like the skill is overperforming, like, you know, Ball Lightning or something like that, or it's not working as intended where it's doing more damage or something like that. I want to say maybe it's okay and Blizzard can rework some of the wording, because I was going back to some of the games that I played. Maybe you have also played these games back in the day. Like with Halo, there was this thing called the BXR where you're able to basically cancel the animation and then you would actually kill the player faster. It was a kind of a combo that you could do like in a fighting game. And even certain things that were probably not intended. If you've ever played Super Smash Bros. Wave Dash, it was probably not intended to exist in the game. If you've ever played Guns the Duel, there's the K style. And then even with Fortnite, if you guys have played Fortnite, there's like always some new glitch in Fortnite, and players have fun with it, and then they nerf it, or they patch it, or whatever. But I genuinely think that these things actually bring a lot more attention. Now, I don't want to get into big brain conspiracy theory here, and I don't think Blizzard is doing this where they make something really OP and crazy, and then they expect people to report on it and upload videos on it. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this new thing works. And then it brings attention to Diablo. So, like, what I think is interesting with the idea that Blizzard does these sort of bugs on purpose, I don't think they intended Spiritborn to be as OP as it is, but again, that is a theory that some people have. But what I think is really interesting in general with Diablo's bugged builds is that this is some of the things that I had the most fun with. And even if we look at Spiritborn, because I saw some criticism on my video where I showed you guys that you could pop the Elixir and do crazy amounts of damage, right? This was the most recent bug that we had that genuinely does some insane stuff. I mean, you're basically immortal in the game, and you get almost infinite damage to the point where I think it was on Barricade's video where he was getting negative damage because the damage number was so high the game couldn't register it, which is crazy. And I was like, okay, well, how many bugged things just exist in the average Spiritborn Quill Volley build, right? And I was like, okay, well, like all the things that would have to do with barrier, every single one of those is bugged. You also have a redirected interdiction, and literally every single item that people would run, with the exception of maybe like the duelist aspects on the boots, everything else is revolved around bugs. Like in the entire inventory over here, everything is either like running off a barrier. Resource cost reduction is a bug because, well, and with the Banished Swords combo, it doesn't even require you to have 275 to get it working because the Radakipileke is bugged in I don't know how many different ways. But every single item in this build right here, with the exception of the boots, is bugged. So for the players out there that were criticizing other content creators, including myself, because I saw some people saying that I should be banned, I've played with people at Blizzard, and they do also play with certain classes like the Ball Lightning, and that was a bug build. They were playing it too. So there's a difference, I want to say, between like a item or like, let's say, a potion that you pop and it like just gives you something that's probably not intended versus doing some exploits with the duping. I think that there's kind of a different correlation. And I know some people like, I was talking to another content creator and they're like, dude, yeah, so some people are getting so mad. I'm thinking about deleting my video showing off the Elixir because they were getting some hate. And I told them, hey, it's not that big of a deal with the potion. Now, are they going to be banning people with this? I don't know. As far as I can tell with the bugs in terms of duping, there's still so many out there. How are they supposed to determine who has a bugged item that got it legit or not? But when it is a bug with a certain skill or like a Banished Swords Talisman Radakipileke, I want to say that that's in like the area where I don't know if Blizzard is going to take a harsh stance on this, because there's going to be so many people that accidentally, if you just equip Banner Sword's Talisman, Rod Keep, you are abusing a bug or maybe exploit. But it is not to the point where it is actually going to affect the secondary market. I think when people are duping Abductite and duping items, that affects the game as a whole. And that would be where I would say that that is definitely bad. But I don't know. It's kind of an area where obviously there's going to be people that don't like bugs and people that do like bugs. But I want to say, for all the people that are kind of like the, I guess I want to say haters here, where they're just like saying you're using and abusing bugs, exploits, unsubbed. I can't believe that you're doing this. And the thing is that almost every single good build in Diablo has been plagued with bugs. And I don't necessarily care too much as far as like, is this on some moral high ground? If you're like, that's a bug build, I'm not playing it. Hey, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. But the best builds in the game, if you guys have played Season 2, Ball Lightning was a build based around a bug. You know what was also based around a bug? Was the build where you would have the rogue build that would use combo points and to Balt's will, which was like the pants. You could legitimately one-shot anything in the entire game, which was obviously not intended in the game, but it was fun, right? And I want to look at the viewpoint of, if I'm having fun, that means that the game is doing its job well. I like that idea. Now, again, most of these things have been nerfed, or if you've ever played Hoda Barbarian was nerfed, or it was bugged for 4 seasons where you're doing more damage than intended. Again, I'm sure a lot of people played this. You can't really sit there on a high ground and say, oh, you're abusing a bug, when literally all the best builds in the game are built around bugs. And it's sad. Do I wish the game was not bugged? Sure. But it doesn't really matter as long as I'm personally having fun. Now, I'm not going to say that if I'm having fun duping, that's where I would draw the line. And if we look at like this build over here where you had like 100,000 HP, which was crazy back in this time over here, where you had like the whirlwind where you would spam, that was not working as intended too. If you've ever played Twisting Blades, Poison Abuse, these are all bugs. Like the whole game is just filled with bugs. Now, again, I have to reiterate, I genuinely don't care about the bugs in terms of the game being fun, to me at least. That should be something that if they want to fix, sure. But again, if there's game-breaking bugs that break the server, I totally get it, like the evade build. But the main thing that I think that really needs to be addressed is the duping that is going on, because again, it's where you have some of the players that spend the most time in your game getting an item and then it just poofs. That just feels way too bad. But over here, the other problem that I want to say that kind of exists, and I've heard this discussion before in some other content creators' videos, which was that they can finally get their glyphs to 100 because of this bug, but then the people that didn't get to abuse the bug or glitch or whatever you want to call it, well, they're just out of luck. So it kind of feels like it's maybe in the best interest to make sure that you use the bug as quickly as possible, because they could nerf it. But Spiritborn, their bug lasted the entire season. In Season 2, the Ball Lightning lasted until the entire season. So it's like there is some inconsistency with certain things. Again, this ANTIVENOM was nerfed literally within 24 hours, which is pretty dang crazy. So again, that's where I would say that there is some inconsistencies that maybe certain things are harder to fix too. Maybe it's not their like mindset of like, we need to nerf this, we need to not nerf this. This is an okay bug. It could be that like this is just simply too hard to fix. Like they cannot fix the Spiritborn, so it has to be bugged because they simply can't fix it. But I was also thinking about certain other things that would be nice. I think one thing that would really make some of these mid-season updates much better is when you are buffing these things, make sure that they are like good enough to where people would actually want to use them. Again, certain things like where you're getting like the wolves, like sure, for like the leveling, like the wolves can do damage, but if you're like late game and you want to build a build around like these new wolves that just got buffed, is this going to be a viable thing? Not really, especially when we're looking at the mid-season. So I want to say that like some of these things, when they're getting buffed, buff them to the point where some of these things can actually be used. Maybe you can run the Pestilence, because I actually tried this out and I was pretty disappointed with this. I'm like, well, what's the point of even like buffing it and getting, technically like the number gets lower, but you get 3 of them, so the number stats are higher. But is this going to be like a viable build when you are, again, kind of baiting players into it? So I wanted to go ahead and mention some of the things that I had in terms of ideas for some solutions. So as far as my ideas go, I think more testing would be better in one sense, but then we have the slower release of content or newer content. If they are going to take longer to test the stuff, then again, it's going to be a longer duration before we get the new stuff. So there's like a pro and a con, but I want to say, as far as it goes for me, this could be something that it might be really hard to test out certain things because some of the bugs require people to like unplug their Ethernet, splitting items. They're doing a lot of crazy stuff that it's like it's almost impossible to like kind of test out some of these things. The other thing is just to let the builds be OP. At least one viable build, in my personal opinion, for each class to potentially do like the hardest content, right? At least one build for every single class. So you can have all the classes at least be able to be somewhat up to par, right? And that could be the new like benchmark. But I think the bare minimum though is to let people blast up until pit 100. And the reason why I mentioned that number is because people want to at least have like a journey to level up all of their glyphs. Even though I think the endgame kind of needs a bigger rework because all it is just slamming down the pit again and again because it's the only form of XP, but it's also the only way you're going to be upgrading your glyphs. This could be another area where we can get some extra improvements. So it'd be good for all the classes to at least try to be able to do like T16. And I think that that would be something good because there's so many builds that can barely get it up to like 80, 90. And hopefully this could be something that we see in the future as well. And I think that there could be some more uniques for the mid-season to spark up some new builds, not just these number changes. I think that new uniques, new ways of content, like the Abattoir of Zir, that was pretty cool. If we can get some brand new updates to items that would actually make people interested in maybe playing something. Like, for example, like the Eagle Horn, where like you can shoot with a pen shot. We just got a pen shot buff. But like there's this unique that is all about pen shot, but it still sucks. Like there's no point of that item to exist. Even if you were to play it, you were missing out on an aspect for a two-hander. It's just not viable enough. So more uniques that are at least viable or just brand new uniques, I think that that could be really good. But I think the critical things to kind of look at is to fix the duping. This is absolutely like a must. And then also an easier max aspects drop rate. When we're going here, I don't know if this like, I think this is like season 4 or 5 gameplay here. It'd be really good to have the ability to actually get those max dropped aspects after like 100-200 hours. There comes to a point where it's like, dude, I'm not getting it. And that's why you have duping becoming such a problem, is because the only way to get that aspect is to involve in trade, which again is done on a third-party website, and people are asking for crypto, and it's another issue on its own. But the reason why people are going and buying those is because you cannot get them in the game. I also think that we need to relook at the masterwork / tempering checkpoints. So what I mean by this is it'd be really great specifically for the masterworking. So when we get something to like 4 out of 4, I think it's really critical that we have the ability to just reset from 8 out of 8 to go back to 4 out of 4, not going from like, 12 out of 12 to all the way to 0. That is very painful. I think that there could be some sort of item that maybe you can like save an item in its state or something, just something to make it a little bit less painful, because I see this time and time again, even after the most recent update, people complaining about this all the time. Tempering, though, it definitely has gotten a little bit better with the reroll, like scroll, where it gives you basically another chance at your item, but a lot of people don't like that you can only use it once. As far as it goes with tempering, I want to say if you just let us use, like, I can keep, as long as I'm using a scroll, right, so I'm consuming some sort of item, then I can keep on eventually getting what I want. I think that that could be like an okay solution. It's a kind of a quicker solution to it, but with the masterworking in particular, I think that we need to get some ability to checkpoints, because the best builds are kind of done by getting duped abduct site, and then they're sitting there all day, and it's not a fun mechanic. And then there needs to be new content that keeps players entertained for more than a week. The average blaster can just blast, and then they're kind of done with the game. And I think that that is definitely the way that I see a lot of the negative reviews. Like when I'm looking at this game and it's like mostly negative right now, a lot of people are complaining there's just really nothing to do past like a couple weeks. And because these seasons are split so long, a lot of the players that are even playing Eternal, which is a topic I want to get into in another video, is that like the players that are just interested in playing Eternal, you can't even sit there and play Eternal forever because your items get reworked. Remember when we had the item power change, and then we got another item power change? So there's a big issue with like the Eternal not feeling like it's Eternal. Like when you had like the Malignant Hearts, all those poof, right? You get all of your Vampiric Sockets glyphed, you get all those wrecked. If you guys remember season 3 when we had that little Seneschal pet, getting some of the ones that would give us like +4 to skills, those took so long to farm, and then you just lose everything. So I think Eternal can be an area where we have these super OP things that are like legacy things, just kind of like how PoE does it, or even Diablo 3 has legacy items where like if something gets changed, you still have like your legacy old item, and that's what Eternal should be. Eternal shouldn't be like you update the items and then your items are worthless anyways, because then you gotta go farm for the new items because the item power has then changed. So if you are changing the item power, give the Eternal players a reason to go ahead and continuously play Eternal, not ruin their items. If you're gonna change the item power, everything on Eternal needs to go up to that item power at bare minimum. That's what I personally think that could exist. Another thing that I thought was really strange is the new update only changes specifically when you're getting that boost. Why is that for Eternal only? That doesn't really make sense. It would have been better if it worked for the season, because if it worked for the season, I would have been like, okay, I'm just going to make another class this season, because this way I don't have to re-level up. But then I still have to do the glyphs, and that's kind of a pain point, and then also getting the aspects is another pain point. But again, I've already mentioned these things. And then the Mythic grind, for me personally, it's just not a fun thing. Now, I do want to say that it was kind of nice that they gave us some of those tributes. They gave us, I believe, 1 or 2 of the tributes. I don't know if it's RNG, but I ended up getting 2 of those tributes recently off of the most recent Xmas update. If you guys haven't checked that out, also check it out in the pin, because you'd get a bunch of rewards. But I got 0 good items out of it. However, I do have the ability to get mythics, but I just think in general, the endgame mythic grind is not fun. But other things that could be more fun for like a mid-season update, since we just got the mid-season update, I was playing it. I played it for a couple hours, and you know, honestly, I'm going to drop a couple builds, but after I drop those couple builds, and a lot of the stuff isn't really that strong. Again, make sure that the newer buffs that you're giving the things, where it's like plus 250 and it's still underperforming. Again, some players just feel like there's a disconnect with like, oh, you buffed it, but it still sucks, right? Good example of this would be Rabies. Rabies has been like a druid skill that like, it just keeps on getting hundreds of buffs, and it's not there. Like, we've increased that skill so many times, but like, you need to test it out to make sure it can at least clear content for people to actually build it. But other great solutions to make the mid-season, since we just got the mid-season update and I'm giving them some feedback on the mid-season, having some interesting things that would be really cool for a mid-season is like clan events, maybe PvP, more of an endgame than just specifically the pit. I think it'd be really cool to have some sort of clan events. Maybe in the mid-season you're going to say, hey, the first clan to be able to make brand new characters and kill Uber Lilith all from level 1, like you start off at level 1 or something, or I don't know what they can do. Just some sort of clan events. What's the point of a clan in the game? Some sort of things for incentivization for people to kind of group up and do some sort of event, make it big. Maybe some sort of like in-game rewards. It could be stuff like platinum. It could be cool like alternate like versions of skins in the game. In PoE they have these things called foils, which makes it like shiny in your inventory. Just cool things that it incentivizes people to again play together. I'd really like to also see some PvP, and then again specifically more endgame than just the pit. At the endgame, kind of like how we got the Aperture of Zir. I would not even mind if they decided, hey guys, we're bringing Aperture of Zir back. Hey guys, mid-season update, we're going to bring a previous season back, have some fun. You know, really encourage people to hop back into the season for the mid-season update, because for myself, I tried the Razor Wing. Well, it's not even close to as good as Quill Volley, so people are just going to be like, dude, this build sucks. It's like open world content, you know, Torment 4 only. I can't do Pit 150. Why would I want to go back to this build when it's not up to par with the current, like, better builds? So, anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's my feedback and update, letting you guys know the Elixir's nerf, and maybe expect the Cinders to get nerfed as well. So, if you want to farm it now, because, again, the way that Diablo is going is like, if there's some new thing, you got to do it fast, and then it gets nerfed, and that's how it works. You know, whether you play Ball Lightning or the Spiritborn or, you know, the Hoda Barb, things get nerfed. Heck, Bash Barb was pretty cool too, but it's nowhere near the same power as it used to be. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. If you made it to the end of the video, you are a legend. Drop a like, subscribe if you are new here. If you want to see more content, there is going to be an update later today, and I'll be covering that as well for the another campfire, which is going to cover season 7. So I'm actually looking forward to it, but it's kind of my wish list as well, I guess, at this point for like the next, you know, season. Anyways, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video. That's how I currently feel about the mid-season of the game.